Welcome back. It's Sunday, March the 1st, and y'all know what that means. That means that I'm about to read my book for March. Okay, so just in case I have some new subscribers, I read a book every other month. So I read 6 on and 6 off so I can meet my goal of 12. And what I do is I read a book like I read normally. I'm not a professional. I read it as if I'm sitting on my couch and I'm reading it. Okay, so what I do for you all is if there are any explicit or trigger warnings, I will put that in the title next to, say, chapter 1, and I'll say explicit content or have a warning sign. Okay, if there are any words that I'm struggling with, I will do a definition video after I finish reading the chapter. And the title will say, example, chapter 1 with the letter D to let you know that there's a definition at the end of the chapter. Okay, so this month and going forward, I decided to release the videos at 6:30 versus 3:30 because I just want to give myself some time just in case things happen. Okay, I've already read what this book is about, and the subscribers who commented chose this one as a majority. So what I also do is if the book is like a dud after, let's say, 5 to 10 chapters, I'm chucking it and I'm gonna get another book. So without further ado, this is the book that was chosen, The Life She Wants. And like I mentioned, I don't know the author. If I sound kind of weird, I'm getting over a cold, so excuse me if I, sniffle or anything like that or cough. But like I said, I don't know the author. I got it from Ollie's for $1.99. And I just picked it up because the title seemed good. Okay, so it was copyrighted in 2021, so it's not that old. Okay, we have 302 pages and it's 28 chapters. There's 31 days in March. So that seems to be like some chapters are pretty long. Okay, let's get it going. You ready? Ooh, excuse me. Prologue. It was a terrible shock to her body being plunged into icy water of the lake. At first, she was numb, sinking lower and lower, the weight of her clothes dragging her down into the freezing depths. Moments later, she gasped, and her body demanded air but finding water instead. It burned in her lungs, a deep, screaming, searing pain in her chest. I'm drowning. The thought was the only clear thing, the knowledge that this was it. This was the end. She relaxed, drifted for a moment before her body protested. She kicked her legs and punched out her arms, something deep inside her instructing her to head up to the surface, to find air so that she could open her mouth and breathe. The rest of it could wait. The cold, the wet, the snow, even her attacker up there on the lake. Up, up, up. The persistent thought was like a chant in her head. She reached out with fingers that were turning blue and grasping the mantra as though it were a rope that could pull her up to the surface. It was pitch black in here, in the hole, underneath the water, but a tiny pinprick of light guided her. It was hope instead of hurt that bloomed in her chest now. One last push. She felt her body engaging every muscle to propel her forward. She could sense that the air that had eluded her had so far within touching distance. She was already gleeful, teeth showing in joyful gratitude, not caring about the water that seeped into her mouth through her smile. She was ready to burst through the surface of the water and gulp in great breaths. She had made it. Smash! She cried out in pain, letting even more water into her mouth as her fingertips came into contact with something solid. Realization hit her hard. and she clawed at the ice above her head, frantic, her whole body rolling until she wasn't sure if it was the world that was upside down or herself. A shadow fell, cutting off the light that came from outside and above. It turned her mounting panic into something akin to a survival instinct. She tilted her head back and forced herself to watch through eyes that were stinging painfully. Through the thick ice, she saw boots, legs, the person they belonged to moving steadily over her, the person who had attacked her. They were still out there, waiting and watching. Time and air had run out. She closed her eyes. She felt her breathing slow. Her body was shutting down. It was over. Woo, what a prologue. Chapter 1. Paula Elise paused by the window on the first floor of her home and looked outside. Leaves carpet the tree-lined avenue, the street of kaleidoscope of red and gold. Yellow rose bushes bordered perfectly manicured front lawns. The flowers were thinning out now, their duty done for the summer, but not wilted brown petals littered the grass. Here in suburban heaven, everything was crisp and clean. With a smile, she pulled up the sash and leaned out, breathing deeply. Autumn. Changes. It was the time of the year when Paula always felt the potential for transformation. She put down the pile of clean washing she had carried upstairs and sat on the windowsill, deep in thought. It was invariably during October that Paula and her husband, Tommy, would begin talking about making alterations in their home life. She imagined finally getting a dog, the same dog they had been talking about for the previous 4 autumns as the evenings drew in. Somehow, the cold blue sky and the piles of leaves made it easy to imagine them wrapping up and taking family walks in the countryside that bordered their Essex home. Often, the talk would then turn from a puppy to a baby. The conversation was always started and led by Paula, with her pointing out that if they were going to do it, then they should be soon. After all, they were both 35, and Paula didn't want to be a 40-plus-year-old mom at the school gates. Tommy's face, open and eager when the talk had been of a dog, would shut down. Usually, they would then argue, or he would. She would sit there on the lovely 3-piece suit, her head nodding lower and lower until he had patiently explained all the reasons why it wasn't a good time. He'd had a lot of reasons to hesitate. The last 4 years of new changes, new life conversations. He was moving on up in his workplace, having started at the bottom as a foreign exchange junior back when he graduated. He ticked off every box every year, and the rewards came in annually, a car for each of them. Paula finally able to quit her job and practice becoming a stay-at-home mom. 2 years ago had come the biggest bonus so far, the 5-bedroom, 3-story townhouse in the new Wickford development of Riverside. Views of the river crouch out the back, meadows and wooded areas at the front, and just a 45-minute commute to London for Tommy. It was perfect. It was a home too big for 2, and Paula had moved in with a sense of positivity and hope for the future. But that January, just like the ones before, there was a promotion on the table, and once again, it wasn't the time to start a family. Inevitably, they would leave it there, Tommy full of promises to pick up the conversation again towards Christmas. But the next year, there would be another reason, another job that had opened up, another box he had to tick as he rocketed towards the top. Not the best time, maybe next year. She appreciated that she didn't understand how hard his work was. Not really. After all, she had all the time in the world. All the hours in the day were hers to do with as she wanted, as long as there was a nice dinner on the table for him when he got home. Paula drummed her fingers on the window pane. Could this year be different? After all, Tommy had gone as far as he could go, having landed the top job of director of accounting in the summer. She felt a thrill run through her, and she shivered at the fresh realization. There was no more reasons to delay. No more excuses. She inhaled deeply, the scent of change in the air, and suddenly she couldn't wait for Tommy to get home. She abandoned the pile of washing, skipping past it and into their master suite. Peering in the mirror, she pulled her hands through her shoulder-length brown hair, teasing it up and pinned it up. Quickly, she moved over to her wardrobe and flicked through the hangers. She would make the effort tonight. After 10 years of marriage, it was important to keep things good for her husband, who worked all the hours. She would nip down to the butcher's on the high street and buy a couple of nice steaks for dinner. Candles and wine. She made a mental note as she pulled out a woolen dress, the same shade as the leaves outside. Music and a great dinner, and maybe an early night. Paula smiled, bathed in hope. Could this be it? I was only going down to the high street. The local butcher would have been okay, said Paula as she jostled her shopping into the booth and sat down opposite her best friend Julie. Julia praised Paula's waist rose bags. It wouldn't have been organic though, would it? And if you're going to start a family, you want only the best. Start as you mean to go on. Paula shushed her, glancing around furtively. Nobody knows, she giggles. Even Tommy doesn't know yet. Julia raised her eyes. I don't know why you waited so long. I mean, why don't you just go ahead and get pregnant anyway? You're married, for Christ's sake. Paula said nothing as she picked up the menu. It was an area where she and Julia differed. As soon as Paula had started dating Tommy, well over 15 years ago now, Julie had spotted his potential and had warned her friend not to let him slip through the net. After all, she reasoned, how many opportunities came along in a lifetime to get with a man who would never, ever be poor? For Paula, it had been different. She had seen a good man in Tommy, one who peppered her with kindness and wasn't stifling in his love. She had never needed the annual bonus that his work brought in, nor the big house, nor the 2 cars, or the once-in-a-lifetime holiday taken every year. She just wanted a man to love, one who would love her back. Now she had everything she could possibly want, except for the easiest thing of all, a baby. Tommy was still there though, and she smiled at the thought of him. It's not right, doing something like that behind his back, she said. We have to discuss something as big as starting a family. Julia snorted. Discuss it long enough, sweetheart, and the decision will be taken out of your hands. And in case Paula didn't get her meaning, she leaned forward, her ample bosom resting on the tabletop. You'll be too old. She sat back, crossed her arms. Maybe that's what he's stalling for. Paula rolled her eyes, taking no offense from her best friend's straight talk. Shut up, Jules. If he didn't want a family, why would he have brought us a 5-bedroom house? For show, Julia said. People like Tommy Ellis need the big house, the flash car. It's all about appearance. She pointed her finger at Paula. Just don't wait another year. I need to lose weight if I'm going to have a baby. God knows I don't want to be shifting baby weight and pre-baby weight afterwards, Paula said. She slammed the menu closed. Salad for me and a mineral water. Julia raised her eyebrows. She said nothing, but it spoke volumes. What? Asked Paula. She sighed and shut her own menu. Do you ever do anything for yourself? What? Paula laughed, but at the sight of Julia's face, it trailed off into nothing. It's just everything you do or say is for Tommy. I can't remember the last time we did something that wasn't ultimately for him. What do you call this shopping trip? It's not for you. We're here for steaks for Tommy, Julia said. She took a deep breath, then reached over and covered Paula's hand with her own. Just don't lose yourself. You're a person too, and a pretty damn good one. It shouldn't be all about him. Paula wrenched her hand from underneath Julia's. Of course, it was all about Tommy. He was the important one in their relationship. Without him, they'd have nothing. She would have nothing. I've been where you are, remember, and nothing you can do will stop whatever's going to happen, Julia continued. Paula's blood ran cold. But your husband cheated on you multiple times. Damn, she went there? She stared at Julia. Are you saying Tommy's going to do that? No, Christ. Julia flapped her hand at her friend. I just meant I don't want to talk about it. With tears threatening, Paula grabbed her bag and stood up. I don't want lunch anymore. I've lost my appetite. Julia's eyes narrowed to tiny slits, and she sat back and crossed her arms. Fine, you go. I'm staying. I am hungry, and I'm not starving myself for anyone, certainly not a man. The words bubbled up and out before Paula could stop them. And don't we know it? Ooh. She snapped spitefully, tearfully, and turned on her heels. She stalked out of the restaurant. That's the end of chapter 1. I might go to chapter 2 in this video. But let's talk about, are they really friends? I mean, yeah, you can be honest with your friends, but damn, girl, did you have to go below the belt? She was like, is he cheating on me like your husband did multiple times? Okay. All right. Okay, so we got to watch Julie and Paula's friendship in this book. Okay, hold on one second. My allergies acting up. See, I told you I'm not professional. So I just wanted to see how many pages was chapter 2. So we're going to go proceed with chapter 2. In the booth behind Julia and Paula, hidden by the high back seat, Anna Massey listened with interest and growing anger. White, hot heat simmered inside her. How were there women in the world like these two? Women who seemed to have everything, a car, a house, the capacity not to have to work, and yet still were not happy? Anna appraised her own reflection in the mirror wall of the coffee shop. She sucked in her cheekbones, angered her face as the harsh lighting bounced off her porcelain image. Elfin was what the magazine called people like her. She embraced the description, wearing her hair short, highlighting it carefully so it had a surfer look to it. William called her his little elf too, even though he was far too old to know about it from the fashion magazine she coveted. Thinking of William made Anna glance at her watch. Time to go. Time to head back to the old boy, cook him his dinner, pie and chips, no organic meat for him, not like the women whose conversation she spent the last half hour listening to. As she got off the bus and crossed the street towards William's little terrace house in Ilford, she spotted his neighbor coming out of the house next door. Pausing, she took her barrette out of her handbag and pulled it on, pushing her short hair up inside it. Afternoon, love, called Mr. Henderson as she strode up the path. She smiled and gave him a friendly wave before hurriedly inserting her key into the lock. The bags she was clutching slowed her down, though, and Mr. Henderson held out a hand. Got William's dinner in there, have you? He asked, craning over the waist-high fence. When you're going to start looking after me? He smiled, though it was really a leer. She gave a barely concealed sigh. The constant battle against men and their proprietorial nature. All the words she really wanted to say to him ran through her head, but she bit them back. If she spoke them, he would tell William that she had been rude to him and she would lose her job. That couldn't happen. To further help her keep the cascade of abuse inside, she allowed herself to imagine returning to the place that had taken her so long to escape from. No, she couldn't lose this job, this home. It was everything. It had saved her. She fixed a smile on her face, bright on the surface, icy cool beneath, if one looked hard enough. Oh, you? She said. Have a nice day, Mr. Henderson. and she slipped inside before he could delay her further. Inside the dim, dark hallway, she let the carrier bags drop to the floor as she leaned against the door. "That you, dear?" called the tremulous voice from the kitchen. "Come in. I'm just putting the kettle on." Anna paused. William hardly ever felt well enough to make a cup of tea. That was why he employed her. Cautiously, she picked up the carrier bags and moved through the kitchen. The first thing she noticed was that he was dressed, and not just in his old t-shirt and pajama bottoms, but actually dressed in a shirt and a suit and even a tie. Her gaze went to the doormat and the pair of shiny black shoes that sat there, the edges crusted with blades of grass. A brown leaf was stuck to the sole on the left shoe. "William, have you been outside?" she asked suspiciously. Unable to hold it in, he beamed at her. "I have," he said. He held his arms out wide and turned in a circle, gripping the edge of the worktop as he moved painfully slowly. "I don't scrub up too bad for an old git, do I?" Anna felt as unsteady as William looked. He never went outside, not even into the garden in the spring or summer, and definitely not when it was cold, wet autumn day like today. He wobbled, and Anna threw the bag on the old wooden kitchen table and dashed to his side. "You need to sit down," she said. "Come on, I'll finish the tea." He allowed himself to be led, and Anna put an arm around his waist, taking almost all of his weight upon her slight frame. In the living room, she lowered him into his chair. "Did you get my things?" he asked. She nodded. "And what did you buy for yourself?" he asked, resting his head back and smiling up at her. Anna smiled back. "A dress," she said, and then coyly, "Would you like to see it?" "What you got going on, Anna?" He raised a liver-spotted hand and patted her arm. "You know I would." His eyes gleamed, cobalt blue chips that pierced her. "Put it on. I don't want to see it on a hanger." Obediently, she left the room, grabbed the bags off the table as she went upstairs. In the room that had become her own, she stripped down to her underwear and emptied the bags on the bed. A dress, she had told him, when in fact she had purchased 5. Always when he sent her out on shopping errands, he told her to get something for herself. After a while, it had become clear that he never checked his credit card bill or receipts. In fact, when she had been caring for him for just 3 weeks, he asked her if she would mind taking over paying the bills. Anna had obliged, realizing very quickly that William had more than enough in his bank accounts to cover any amount that she spent on his card. She selected one dress and pulled it on. It was a body-hugging woolen winter number that skimmed her thighs. Appraising her reflection, she shook out her hair. For some unknown reason, the women in the coffee shop came to mind. Neither of them could wear this, she thought with a sense of satisfaction. Definitely not the heavier of the two, but even the other one, the married, spoiled one, was the wrong side of 30 and the wrong side of size 10 to carry off a dress like this. The husband would want her too. Anna knew that much just from the way the women had been talking about him. And she would try something on, a dress like this, and his eyes would be filled with disappointment. He would suggest something else, maybe a trouser suit or a maxi dress that hid a multitude of sins. On a whim, she pulled out her phone, tapped into the Facebook app, and searched for the name she had overheard earlier that day. It was a relatively common name, and she stabbed at the screen, going into the accounts one by one, checking the relationship status to look at the profile of wives seeking the woman she had seen. The right Tommy Ellis came up at last, and his profile picture confirmed everything Anna had thought about him. Tall, tan, and he clearly took care of himself, even if his wife didn't. He had the money too. she thought bitterly. Scrolling through his photos, it was obvious what sort of world he and his wife lived in. A universe in which it rained money. The house, the 5-bedroom one that she had mentioned to her friend, the car, a BMW, of course it would be. Flashy and with a personalized number plate. Older pictures of him in rugby kits. And yes, that made sense. People like him always veered towards rugby rather than football. She made a bet with herself that he plays squash weekly and spat a laugh when she came across a post tagged in a squash court in Essex. He was a walking cliche, just like his wife. But just for a moment, she let the screen fade to black. Imagined herself living a life with a man who was handsome and successful, rather than her actual life, taking money from William here and there, living in a terrace house with an old man, doing all the chores that came with looking after a pensioner. I'm just going to say that's a word because I don't know what it means or don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. She clicked the phone again, scrolled some more. There were holidays galore, sunshine, beaches, cocktails, him always in a crisp white shirt, rarely topless in any of the pictures actually. She peered more closely, saw he had a potential to be a big man, and wondered how hard he had worked at keeping his body just this side of good. She grinned spitefully, knowing that when the wife wanted so much came along, both of their frames will go from respectable to a state of let go. Briefly, she wondered if that was what had happened to Jules, the wife's fat friend. And oh my God, Jules is thick. Oh, intrigued, she hovered over a photo of him with his arms around his wife, then clicked on her profile. Paula was her name. Her page was public, as was Tommy's, which it would be if you had this much money and property and fancy living. You'd want the whole world to know about it. She wrinkled her nose and scrolled down the page. She blinked at Paula's latest post, the raw steaks laid out on a wooden chopping board, fresh chives, mushrooms tumbled beside them. Anna's lip curled. She imagined taking a photo of William's uncooked pie and frozen chips. "Gimme, what you doing up there?" William's voice drifted up the stairs. For a split second, as always, the name threw her, before she realized he was talking to her. It had been an easy mistake. When they first met, she had introduced herself as Anna. He didn't have his hearing aids in, thought she had said her name was Gemma. She had gone to correct him before biting back her words. She wasn't sure why she didn't tell him her real name, but as time went on and more of William's money came her way, she decided that the misunderstanding might not be a bad thing. It was the same reason she always wore a hat outside, a beret in the winter, cap or sun hat in summer. The less anyone knew about her to be able to identify her, the better. After all, she didn't plan on staying with William forever. "Coming," she called. Clicking away from Facebook, she looked at herself in the mirror one last time before skipping down the stairs to show William what he had brought for her today. And that's the end of chapter 2. So that in chapter 1, when Paula said what she said about losing weight to Julia is a big girl, and that's even more below the belt. Look at me starting off already. Annette, get yourself together. Get yourself together. Okay, just keep in mind, there's now Paula, Jules, and Anna. So Anna, okay, it's only chapter 2. It's only chapter 2. So yeah, there was one word. The reason why I circled it is because I don't know if I pronounced it right, and I don't know the definition. So stay tuned for the definition portion. However, I'm just going to pause this and come back with the definition video. Be right back. Okay, and I'm back. The word is spelled Pensioner, and this is how it is pronounced.
Pensioner. Pensioner.
Pensioner. One more time.
Pensioner.
Okay, in the sentence it says, oh, it's a whole paragraph. But just for a moment, she let the screen fade to black. Imagine herself living a life with a man who was handsome and successful rather than her actual life. Taking money from William here and there, living in a terraced house with the old man, doing all the chores that came with looking after a pensioner. And the definition is a person who receives a pension. Oh, pensioner. Okay, it makes sense. All right, that's the end of chapter 2. I shall see you in chapter 3. Bye for now.